The film begins with two thieves entering a building with their faces masked, firearms in hand, and shooting anyone who gets in their way. They eventually arrive at a room with a man holding a significant sum of money, shoot him, and seize the entire amount of money. Next, the two robbers are talking and one instructs the other to place the money in the safe and keep his head down. The other, a tiny boy, agrees, and they proceed. The scene shifts to Adair, a mob gangster in a meeting with one of his workers, Greg. Adair informs him that he knows he is stealing from him, but the only punishment is death. Next, the club kicks out a young boy, Chance Wilson, but he assures the bodyguard that he has connections inside and can offer him money. When Chance gets home, he finds Desmond in his room with someone. Desmond and his companion inquire about the money Chance is left with. Once they were unable to find the money, they started attacking Chance. When he fails to reveal the whereabouts of the money, Desmond eventually shoots him cruelly. In the next scene, a drug dealer is delivering a customer some drugs when a cop approaches and arrests him. When the cop answers the phone, he addresses himself as Detective Muntz. He visits the crime scene and wonders who wanted Chance dead. The scene switches to Frank Wilson, who lives alone outside the city. However, he looks sick and even coughs blood. Suddenly, Swilly and Detective Muntz arrive, looking for him. Detective Muntz introduces himself and reveals his difficulty in finding Mr. Wilson. Wilson asks if Detective Muntz is here to arrest him, and he responds negatively. He carries the news of his son's death with him. Detective Muntz informs him en route that he has heard a lot about him as a retired cop. Adair also receives a call about Chance not showing up for work. Wilson visits the mortuary to confirm the identity of his son. Detective Muntz promises to find the killer. Wilson speaks with Swilly at Chance's burial and expresses his hope that if he could prevent him from leaving the house, things would be different. When Wilson discovers Charlotte in the churchyard, he approaches her and inquires whether she knows his son. She says that he used to go to the casino to play cards, and she works there. She is aware that Wilson and Chance have not communicated in years. One of his employees calls Adair to inform him about Chance's death the previous night. He tells him to conduct a comprehensive investigation into the boy's murder. When Wilson approaches Swilly with a gun, Swilly wonders what he intends to do. Wilson borrows a truck from Swilly and leaves with a duffel bag, motivated by his understanding of how the city cops operate and his desire for retribution against Chance. A man introduces Karina as a new supplier for the company. Adair reminds her that they recently parted ways with their longtime supplier and that he has only heard positive things about her family. Next, we see Wilson seated in a cafe, imagining Chance in the cafe. Ashley, an old friend, approaches him and asks about his son. Wilson tells her that he will discover the murderer and seek justice for his son. He also asks whether she can help him find out who killed Chance. Later, while walking down the road, he meets a man who informs him that Jinx is waiting for him. Jinx, a crook who spent numerous years in prison and holds Wilson responsible for his incarceration. A brawl breaks out, and he defeats them all. The scene shifts to a landlord asking Wilson why he wants that specific room, to which he responds that someone murdered his child in that room. Upon entering the room, he discovers a photograph of his wife and Chance. He remembers the day Chance left his house, defying his repeated warnings that the city would turn and devour him. But Chance did not listen. Wilson wakes up from his son's nightmare, and his son's phone rings. Desmond is in a club with his gang, having a good time. Suddenly, he receives a call from Chance's phone. It is Chance's father calling to inquire about Chance, but he does not answer. Wilson travels to the casino and meets Charlotte, asking her to tell him everything she knows about his son. She informs him that his son had a habit of playing cards and spending all of his money on them, and that he was receiving threats from the person who demanded him money. Wilson inquires about Desmond Packard, to which she responds that Chance had a habit of stealing money from him, and that everyone in the neighborhood had terrible things to say about him. She bids farewell and departs. Wilson then encounters a man who has known him for many years. When he asks about Desmond Packard, he explains that he is Adair's son. Adair abandoned him because of his unacceptable behavior. He admits to spending time at the Razor Room. Next, Adair tells Desmond that he has done all possible to provide him with a decent existence, but he wants him to quit acting foolishly all the time. Adair counsels him to sever ties with his criminal associates, demonstrate empathy towards others, and strive for positive deeds. Desmond claims that he is innocent. Next, Wilson enters the club and displays his police ID. He asks the guard to accompany him to Desmond, who asks Wilson where he is from and what he wishes to discuss. Wilson responds that he isn't from here, and if he knows his son Chance. Wilson claims to have seen Desmond's phone number as the last dial number, but Desmond says he doesn't know. Wilson asks whether he killed his son. Desmond cautions him to evacuate the city promptly due to potential harm. Wilson strikes Desmond on the ground, breaking his nose, and then seizes his gun. Wilson meets Detective Muntz and hands him the gun that he confiscated from Desmond. He wants Muntz to confirm that the bullet and gun found in Chance's body are identical. Muntz tells him not to act like a cop because he is no longer one, and Wilson exits the scene. Next, Detective Muntz informs Desmond that Wilson gave him his gun to examine the ballistics. Desmond asks for his pistol back, but Muntz declines. So Desmond hands him money and assures him that he will manage everything. Muntz claims he should know where Wilson lives in exchange for more money, which he accepts and leaves. Muntz warns Adair that his son may face legal consequences for killing Chance. Jinx attempts to tell Wilson something about Charlotte, but Wilson ignores him. Wilson follows Charlotte to her parents' house, believing she took the money. She responds that her intentions were not particularly awful. She adored Chance and wanted nothing more than to be free of the city and her career. He tells her that she should leave because his son died as a result of her avarice, leaving her with his guilt for the rest of her life. Desmond and his father then have a conversation, during which his father questions him about why he killed Chance. He informs him that Wilson was the best cop on the force and that he killed his son. Desmond claims he will take care of things, but his father tells him to do nothing. Wilson sees Chance in a nightmare once more and decides to go. Meanwhile, Desmond and his boys arrive at Wilson's house and search everywhere, but they can't find him. Suddenly, a motorist honks, and Desmond looks down to find his car on fire. Muntz then pays Wilson a visit and informs him of the car explosion that occurred. Wilson clarifies that he heard the car honking and requests the results of the ballistics test. Muntz claims they haven't arrived, but he'll be the first to know. Wilson says that he's returning to his place because there's nothing else to do. Wilson then meets Ashley and confirms his statement. Either the bullet or the weapon he handed Muntz is on file. Desmond then inquires at Wilson's residence, but they are unable to locate him. One of them ventures outside to conduct a search. He is hidden in the bushes outside his house, where he shoots one of them and retrieves his weapon. He then proceeds to murder each of the other guys, one by one, until the final one shoots him and informs Desmond of his demise. Next, Wilson lies in a hospital bed with Swilly and Ashley by his side, experiencing yet another nightmare about Desmond and his boys mistreating his son. Muntz approaches them both and introduces himself. He questions them about their knowledge of Wilson's incident and who was involved. Swilly reports that he heard a gunshot and discovered Wilson unconscious. Muntz requests their contact information, and Ashley gives him her phone number. He urges them to call him as soon as Wilson awakens. Muntz updates Desmond on Wilson's condition and assures him that he still has 2 dedicated followers who are looking after him. Adair contacts Desmond and tells him that he is weary of continually telling him to do the right thing, that it crushes his heart to talk to him in this way, and that he is no longer his son. He tells him that he doesn't have much time left and wants him to go right away. Desmond informs his father's bodyguard that the old man can no longer operate the business and advises him to approach the supplier about hiring a new manager. Next, Ashley tells Swilly to return home since he needs to rest. Meanwhile, the bodyguard talks to the supplier and asks her to do something for him without informing the employer or Desmond. Desmond then visits Swilly's home and expresses his gratitude to him for transporting Wilson to the hospital. Desmond inquires about Ashley's awareness of the incident. When Swilly tells him she knows nothing, Desmond tries to intimidate Swilly, who instead shows no fear of him. He finally shoots him dead. In another scene, the bodyguard calls Muntz for assistance and transfers a large sum of money to his bank account. Meanwhile, Wilson regains consciousness and informs Ashley that he needs to leave. She says that Swilly went home to rest, but he was present the previous night. She also informs him that she must depart, convincing Wilson to stay and unwind. However, when she receives a phone call, she is shocked to discover Swilly's death. Wilson prepares to escape the hospital in order to exact retribution. 2 corrupt cops then attempt to assault Wilson in the hospital parking lot. Muntz then contacts Ashley to check in on Wilson. He informs her that he has gotten the results of the ballistics check, but is unable to reveal them over the telephone. Wilson speaks with Muntz and agrees to meet for the results. Ashley tells Wilson that the DEA will strip his son's name from the heist, but they need evidence against Adair and must proceed cautiously. Wilson then tells Muntz that because he, Desmond, and Adair attempted to assassinate him last night, they will all die. Following their confrontation, Wilson shoots him and texts Desmond to come to the warehouse. In contrast, Adair watches the webcam broadcast and learns about his employee-supplier arrangement. He approaches him and murders him. When Desmond arrives at the warehouse, he sees Muntz's car and approaches it. Wilson attacks Desmond, knocking him down, and despite Desmond's pleas for his life, Wilson exacts revenge. He then goes to meet Adair and tells him that he's going to kill him because of the type of person he is, not because he murdered his son. The world will be a better place without him. After their struggle, Adair overpowers the injured Wilson, but Wilson smiles, knowing he has already called 911 and that Adair will spend the rest of his life in prison. Charlotte was hiding at a hotel. Learning of the arrest and the ongoing investigation into Chance's murder, she immediately starts packing her bags in an attempt to flee. Suddenly, one of Adair's associates walks in and shoots her.
Thank you for watching. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps until next time. Have a nice day.